that I wish everyone in the United States could hear and take into their hearts. And so I want you, because Noah is here with us, Noah, stand up back there for a second. This young man gave a speech that should have been from the White House and every other house in this country, and if it were given 400 years ago, we may not have been where we have been. So kudos to you, Noah.
All right, Noah. So we'll have our panelists come up. We've got Noah, Hudson, Wyken, and Brandon. Please come to the stage. This is a panel tonight. We're going to talk about the film a little bit, but it's more about culture, activism, and creativity. We'll introduce ourselves. I was supposed to introduce, but I think let's start with Wyken and just give a quick introduction.
Hello, thank you everybody for being here. My name is Wyken Harris. I'm a mentor and a teacher with the Solo Foundation. I am also a community activist, grant acquisitionist, and political strategist with the Carr Foundation as well.
My name is Brandon Lamar. I am the past senior president for the NAACP. I'll go into this other stuff, which is insane because I was actually in the middle of a lot of it. So I didn't know what the film was about before I got here, but now I know and I'm glad to be here.
I'm Noah. I co-wrote the film. I am 17 now, and yeah.
I'm Hudson, and I'm best friends with Noah.
You guys know me. So we'll just jump into it. My first question is for Noah. And so Noah, what impact did you hope to make when you gave your speech? And how did it make you feel when the speech became viral, leading to an interview with Alicia Keys on Nickelodeon, and ultimately a film that traveled around the world and back?
Well, I guess in terms of impact, I was really just wanting to let other kids know that they kind of also had a voice and that their voice mattered, and also just spread a message of kindness, and that it doesn't, and that just like me and Hudson, race shouldn't matter, and it should really more matter what's on the inside, and that we should love each other regardless of what's on the outside. And in terms of how when it blew up, I was really just kind of taken aback. I was like, it all happened very suddenly, and it just kind of spiraled up into something that now has traveled all around the world. And I'm thankful to you and thankful to God that this opportunity has befallen me.
Awesome. I'm thankful to you for being so open. Our process was, we had so many conversations, very candid conversations. I had like a huge list of questions, and Noah would just answer everyone. He would be very calm and very collected, and he would just give me his truth. So it was really easy to write this, and it's interesting to me, and I still chuckle about this. This film at Cannes won Best Screenwriting. There's no script. So that in itself to me is bananas. Like that, I've never seen anything like that as a filmmaker. So kudos to you, Noah, for opening your heart, not only with this film, but everything that you've done with this project.
Thank you so much. You too.
Hudson, my boy Hudson. How important is it for us to listen and learn from other cultures while coexisting as a form of support?
Well, I mean, I think the important thing is that despite race, despite everything that's happened, we need to support each other now more than ever. And I think as Noah's friend, he's really helped me open my eyes to different perspectives, things like that. And he's helped me realize that I can do whatever I can to support him as he goes through everything that's happened. And I mean, coexisting as a human race is the most important thing. That's the only race that truly matters to differentiate.
Yes, good answer. That's awesome. All right, very cool. So, Wyken, for you, let me put my glasses on, stop playing. How do our cultural backgrounds shape our authentic storytelling?
So I think for me, as somebody who's biracial, being Black and Mexican, it plays a lot into the stories that I tell. You know, so from a Black perspective, you know what I mean. I feel like a great example of that would be like Kendrick Lamar at the Super Bowl. So for a lot of people outside of the Black community, they were like, "This is boring. Like, what is going on?" For us, but for us who speak the dialect and know what he's signifying, it's like, wow, this is a powerful moment. This is a moment in Black history where somebody is getting on stage and telling America to its face, "Hey, we're tired of playing the game." I don't know if you guys noticed, but there's a scene where literally he's dancing on a controller, letting you know that this is a game that he's playing to get here. Even as a Black man, as an entertainer who has a track record, who's done all these things, he's still being admonished, and people are saying, "You're not the person to do this." You know what I mean? And I think what he did in that moment was Black solidarity. Even though he was going after another Black man, what he showcased to us was that there are some people who are fraudulent in the way that they portray their Blackness or they portray their ethnic background. And for us, especially as me as a creative, on both sides of the fence in a way, you know what I mean? I got to make sure that the stories that I tell are authentic and are from something that I personally have gone through. Because if you don't be that guy where it's like, "Hey, you look fraudulent," and you don't, like, we like Drake with the melodies. We don't like when Drake's trying to rap tough. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like one of those things where you got to just be who you are and be comfortable in your own skin. And as Black people, that's already hard enough. Yeah. You know what I mean? So we got to continue to just be ourselves and just be openly creative, be openly dope. Don't let somebody stop you from being dope when you know that's exactly who you are. If it's in your divine nature, let it be so.
Yes, yes. That Super Bowl performance reminded me of slavery in the sense of song and communication through song in order to communicate to our people. In code, it doesn't stop. But there's a lot of power in that. And I think that we need to continue as we tell our stories, as we, push our agendas, as we speak to each other and others outside of a community. We have to stand fast, and continue that communication. Thank you, sir. So Brandon, I have a question for you and Noah. What role does storytelling play in social activism and change, and how does Noah exemplify this?
First, I'll say, number one, congratulations, and thank you for using your voice in something that's such powerful like this. Storytelling is really different for everybody. You mentioned slaves, right? Most people who are not from the Black persuasion, or even some that are in the Black persuasion, did not even know where braids actually originated from. And braids was a way to communicate with other slaves on exit routes to get out of slavery or out of their master's land. Communication. What Kendra did was communication, right? And so there's different ways of communication. And for African American community, we've had to communicate in other ways except for English, because we've been enslaved not only just at the hands of masters, but we've been enslaved at the hands of a system. And so I think communication for us is ways to, there's multiple ways for us to communicate, but also we have to be effective in the communication. And I think also our communication has to actually start to merge generations. One thing that I'm big on is, our teaching of the Bible says that he called the young because of their strong, and he called the older because of their wisdom, right? And which means that there's a place for me and there's a place for you. But if we don't merge those generations, then communication can get lost somewhere, or we'll forget our history within that communication. And so I think a part of us is as we continue on, number one, I don't think that Noah could have said what he have said in that speech without somebody actually educating him on what has happened before. So it shows the ground that he has came from. It shows the history that he has. It shows his family dynamics, from who has taught him and who has raised him up. Because that was more, I grew up young in activism and advocate, and people used to always tell me that I'm wise beyond my years, right? And so that was really like a 60-year-old man talking at a 12-year-old body. But that's how communication happens. We're not just communicating with what we know, we've also communicated with what we've been taught and the systems in which we've been taught.
And to kind of add on to what you said, I think that Noah is a great form of how stuff in the entertainment industry can be used as to showcase the activism to a broader audience, because I think overall having a film like this is very engaging, and it can engage multiple different kinds of audience, whether you're black, white, young, or old, and it's a way to kind of bring a message to the masses and to illuminate something or one person's truth, which in this case is mine, to a multitude of people.
Cool. So Brandon, how can creatives use their platforms to advocate for social justice?
Yeah, so I think number one is just being you. Whatever your lane is, whether it is you create a film, whether it is you doing music, whether it is you doing poetry, you create you, but you also, the way to really or get into activism is you have to activate. And the way you activate is how you bring people into your space. And so however you are as a creative, you have to build space and create space for other people to be activated, right? And so if you are a writer, create a space within your group friends of writers and activate them in that space, right? If you are a song producer, or you are a music producer, or you are a video producer, whatever it is that you do, bring people into your space to activate them into this. The truth of the matter is, and I think I can say this now, is what we saw in the George Floyd age is the same thing that we saw in the civil rights age. Is that at the end of the day, we understand that there is still some fear behind being black. And we also understand that if it was just for us as African Americans speaking up about George Floyd's incident, nothing would have happened. So it's more so of bringing people into our conversation and having people, not only just of the African American race, but also bringing everybody into this conversation and saying, hey, there is something wrong about this. And I think that's the thing that makes it so powerful, is that people use their space, their energy, their creativeness, whether it be drawing, like people were literally doing arts on the wall and graffiti on the wall saying this is not right. And so everybody used their space. So how we activate is literally we pull people into our spaces, we activate them, and we push them out. And I think that's one of the biggest things about this film, is the reason why it was so impactful is that it activated something on the inside of people for them to watch it. Like, you know what, it's not right, right? And so one of the things, even in me watching this for the first time, the scene that got me was the scene where Noah was in the water, right? And people was like, you can actually listen to what he's saying, but actually if you go beyond what he's saying and looking at the visual, that's a young black man drowning in the mess that he sees around him, right? And so like, I admonish people that creators don't speak English. Like, you won't understand what creators are saying or creatives are saying when it comes out of their mouths, but you have to look beyond what they say. You have to look beyond that drawing. You have to look beyond what you see and actually see what you feel, and what you feel would actually speak more words than what that person is saying.
Awesome. Mr. Wyken, what are effective ways to integrate activism into creative projects?
So one of the things that I like to do, and shout out my man here, John Love, we actually partner with his mom's nonprofit, Helping Hands, and we do open mics where we basically raise money for this nonprofit through art, bringing people together for music, good time, community. So that's a great way to really get your community activated and engaged with what you're doing, because I feel like as artists, we can basically set the platform, but we need the community to help build everything else that we need as far as structure, because without the community part of it, we're really just making noise here. You know what I mean? So I think having strategy and focus, and also understanding who you aim to serve and what you aim to change is very important. So always have that in mind. But there's plenty of opportunities. I feel like, as artists, we could always, one thing I'll say as an artist is what we do comes from the ether. It comes from nothing. That in itself is a privilege. When you can pull from that and understand that you can pull from nothingness and turn it into something, then you understand that you really have true power, and anything you do is a platform. Anything you do is a moment. So as long as you bring on the right people who are equally like-minded and can see, like Monty said, the bigger picture, you can make anything happen. We could do an art charity right now for a gallery for photos that we take here. You know what I mean? Anything can be anything as long as you have the altitude to see what the bigger picture is. You know what I mean? And that's, a lot of, gobbledygook for some people. But what I'm really trying to say is just have belief, have faith in yourself and your capabilities, and you will succeed.
Awesome. So for Noah and Hudson, what do we need to do to inspire and support our youth, to give them the courage that both you and Hudson, Noah, displayed throughout your speech and this film project?
I think, like I kind of said before, that we really need to make sure that every single one of them knows that they will have a voice and that what they think matters, no matter how old or what race or gender or whatever they are. The fact that they're human alone gives them a voice. And also that I think the biggest thing is that we need to spread a message of kindness and peace overall. That I think overall, just any violence or animosity towards anybody for any is just not a great way to go through living life. And I truly believe that once you accept peace and once you kind of do unto others as you would want to be done unto yourself, then that's when if everybody could do that, then that's when the world would really be able to shine.
Yeah, sort of going off of what Noah was saying there. Yeah, we need to give them a voice. We need to show them that they are heard, not shut them down. We need to show them their words have just as much as an impact as a world leader. Even if, not as much is done, we need to show them at least that they are being listened to, that their voice matters. We need to show them that they count because they are human.
Okay. I want to jump off script really fast, Noah, because I didn't get a chance to ask you this question. What was going through your mind right before you were to give the speech? I noticed just kind of a difference in your demeanor after you got through it and everyone was clapping and you're just kind of like, oh, okay. Whew. Can you kind of walk us through that for a second?
I'd say right before going into the speech, I was definitely very nervous because I'm better with it now, but definitely at that point I wasn't very great with like speaking in crowds and stuff. So that was definitely a big reach for me to be able to do that. But once I got past that, it was kind of like this weird state of it's kind of like a state of just flow where I just kind of knew what I needed to say, what I needed to do, and I was just able to do it.
Okay, so for those out there who kind of feel like they want to say something, but they're scared, it sounds like you're saying fight through it because there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
I think that's exactly what I was to say, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and that even if you're nervous, I promise that your voice heard is 10,000 times more impactful than your voice is unheard.
All right. All right. Go off, Noah, go off. Wyken and Brandon, how do young creatives leverage social media for advocacy and visibility without being oversaturated and caught up in the noise?
One person's object. I think for me, with my creative agency, we really try to leverage impact first and foremost, right? You want to do something that's going to make a difference because you don't want to get people to fund and raise money for something you're doing where it's really not going to change anything. You know what I mean? So for me, it's really understanding, like I said, having strategy, focus, and commitment to a cause. You've got to find something that you actually like and want to participate in. With me, a community that really has a hold over my heart is people in the neurodivergent community. I have people in my family who are on the spectrum, so that community to me is very near and dear to my heart. So when I partner with them and I do things out of my own free will to help these specific people, it's because I truly want to, and I think that's the most important thing. You shouldn't be doing things for the clout, the admiration, the applause. None of that really matters at the end when nothing really changed. Do you want to clap for something that didn't get done, or do you want to cheer for something that changed the world? So that's my perspective on that.
I think for me, social media it's our news platform. It's my generation's new platform, and the generation that came after mine is our news platform. So everything is there, and I think also social media is a way that we have used to get activated. At the end of the day, if there was no social media, we wouldn't even know about George Floyd. If it wasn't no social media, we wouldn't know about any of these other things that's been happening, right? The interesting thing for us is that literally a week after George Floyd in my city, a young man by the name of Anthony McClain got shot in the back by a police officer from running away from the police officer. And so, like, if it wasn't for social media, the world wouldn't have known about Anthony McClain. And this is in our backyard, right? It's not in Minneapolis, it's in our backyard. And so social media plays a part, but I think when you misuse it, that's when the problem comes, right? But I always tell people, anytime they ask me about social media, is please understand anything you put on it can never be erased. Even when you click delete, it is still up there somewhere, and they'll find a way to get it. And I've been a witness of that. And so use it in a way to activate people, use it in a way to spread awareness, use it in a way to uplift, use it in a way that you can actually pull people into the conversation that needs to be had. People saw Noah's speech because of social media, right? That share button is one of the most powerful tools we have. And so it's all about how we use it, but it's literally the 21st century. It is our news platform because we're not looking at we're not looking at ABC, CBS, CNN. My generation is not. We're looking at what you got on Instagram and TikTok and Twitter and all that, or is it X now? But we're looking at all that stuff, and so it's really how we use it. But it's one of the most powerful tools that we have in our generation.
Awesome, great. Okay, so we're going to tap into community organizations and government right now. Since we have you here, Brandon, what is the NAACP doing or plan to do to empower Black and Brown creatives and their activism to help bolster the organization's work?
Yeah, so this is actually. Y'all should have sent me these questions before.
Take a moment to give you a little backstory. Brandon 32, right?
Yeah, 32.
The youngest NAACP branch president that I know of that's sitting right here. So when he says his generation, that's what he's talking about.
Yeah. Thank you guys. So I am the youngest branch president in the United States. But it also means that I have the most work to do. So NAACP, what we're actually doing and what we've really been trying to do is create a space where my generation, the generation that's coming after me, has a space to really pull in the next generation of young leaders. We have been a space for a very long time where leaders have been activated, but we also have been a space for a very long time where there's been crabs in the bucket. And that's what we have to change. Like, we don't like to have those hard conversations in our world because what happens in the living room stays in the living room. And that's how it actually stays in the living room. But then you have young people like us that don't want nothing to do with that. And so we go find somewhere else. And so I think with us, what we're doing is creating space for young people, activists, creatives, to use our platform of the NAACP to show their work, right? So tomorrow we're doing NAACP with the Image Awards is doing a creative dinner tomorrow for young creators that has been doing the work to show their work on our platform. Friday we're doing another Young Leaders event. Saturday is the NAACP Image Awards, and then Sunday we have a Youth in College brunch to really highlight young people. And so for us, it's really getting the next generation involved in the work without the bickering and the fighting. Because at the end of the day, it goes back to what I said. He calls the young because we're strong. He calls the old because of their wisdom. But at the same time, if we don't learn to work together, there's really nothing that we can do, right? If we don't work together. And so for what we're doing as far as NAACP and organizing is we're just trying to merge these generations together for us to stop bickering between two and really pull in the fight. Not only that, but being the youngest in the United States, youngest branch president, I'm also the youngest, was the youngest now. I was the youngest in my branch. But literally with a month being in my branch, we have also inputted 200 people that is younger than me into our branch in a month. And so we're doing the work. It's pushing out there. And I've only been branch president for a month, y'all. And so it's really pushing the work for us to get this job done.
I love that. Okay. How can we get more involved? Now that you're here and, we're doing the thing, how can we get more involved with your branch and the NAACP as a whole?
Yeah, so I think with getting more involved is always tell people use the NAACP's platform. Stick to what you do and use the platform to elevate what you do, right? At the end of the day, there's so many things for every last one of us to do, but where issues come in is we try to merge into somebody else's lane. Stick to your lane. If you are a writer, write the heck out of that script, right? If you are a director, direct it. If you are a dancer, dance. If you are an activist, activate. One of the most interesting things that we saw in the George Floyd era is that everybody found their role and we did it great. You had those that protest and was in the streets. You had those was in the back rooms with government leaders like, y'all, we got to do something about this. You had those that was creating stories and movies and storytelling, right? Because every last one of us have a role. And at the end of the day, when we in a storm, we can never see that tunnel, like the light while we're in it. It's not until after we come out, it's like, y'all, this is what we were able to create together, right? So in Pasadena, one of the things that we were able to do is during the George Floyd time, we actually had so many protests and activists and meetings and all this kind of stuff. Because of what we saw, we created the first, in our community, we created the first civilian police oversight board. And so literally we have community members, local grassroots organizations that are oversight of our police department now because of this efforts. And so there's things that we can do when we activate together, when we pull in each other's voices and when we uplift the next generations. Because let me say, the next generation is not leaders for when they get older. The next generations are leaders now. Every single person that you saw lead was leading at a young age. People just didn't pay attention until they got older. And so it's just really activating and cultivating what we have and uplifting it. So use the platform to uplift what you're already doing.
Awesome. I'll be reaching out.
Please do.
Cool. You mentioned local government. Wyken and or Brandon, what's the process for engaging with city officials on creative and social issues?
So I think with that, and if I can, I'd love to talk a little bit about the Dakar Foundation. It's really about finding opportunities to really engage the youth and give them opportunities to pull themselves up. Especially with the stuff that we do here with the Dakar Foundation, we're really trying to create workforce programs that incentivize people to learn new skills, become creative entrepreneurs, and really just, empower the youth to already be the creative professionals they see themselves are, but just don't have the resources. So like a place like the Sola Foundation, where we are able to give so many resources to so many, youth and just, interested people who just want to learn so many things, we're trying to take that same exact model and just put it into a person's life so that person can just, grow into that model of like, hey, this is what I'd like to do. But as young people, it's so hard, so you really need to have mentors. I think the biggest thing for me is that shaped my career is having mentors and being able to talk to somebody like Brandon or talk to somebody like Kevin Clark, people who have way more experience than you. I think as young people, the one thing we do lack is experience. You know what I mean? Whether you're 26 like me and think you can take on the world and save it all, you know what I mean, no cape or anything, or you're somebody who's older and just has the experience and knows, hey, it's gonna take a little bit more than hopes and dreams. You know what I mean? There's processes that exist, and sometimes as young people, we're just not allowed access to those rooms. So a mentor is a fast track to be in those rooms, and when you are in those rooms, you have to do your best to play ball and listen and just be able to absorb information and also articulate back the things that need to be said from our generation as well. Because like Brandon was saying, the disconnect is the lack of communication amongst generations, and that's the most important thing.
What I would share is very quickly, don't conform, transform. The system that we're fighting was never meant for us in the first place. And so since the system was never meant for us, we cannot conform to that system, we have the ability to transform that. And the way we transform is we don't wait to have a seat at the table, we create our own tables. And I think that's the important thing that we have to understand, is that we don't wait for government contracts, we don't wait for government grants. We actually go out there and we create a system in which people support the weight of what we have, right? And so when it comes to conforming, we don't conform to that system, but we actually start to prepare our tables and put the legs on those tables, and we set it, and we create seats, and we bring people to our table so that we can change, not really change a system, but create our own system within the system that was never designed for us, right? And I think that's the important thing for us and the next generation after us to understand, is you don't wait for somebody to give you a green light. The government is always wait till we tell you to go. So you don't wait for the green light. The thing is that if you wait for the green light, it will never come. Just like for a person that hurts you and you waiting for an apology, most times that apology will never show up. If you're waiting for the government to give you your 40 acres and a mule, you're gonna keep waiting. My grandmother, great-grandmother, great-great-grandmother has been waiting. So instead of for us to wait, we have to start creating our own tables and making sure, not only do we have to create our own tables, but also get into the realness of the conversation. We have to start supporting each other. At the end of the day, it has shown in the last 2 weeks what we can do. I know some of y'all still going to Target, but it has shown what we can do in the last 2 weeks if we stop going. Literally yesterday, Target has reported that they have lost over $15 billion in sales because we stopped going, right? And so there is power in our dollars. Literally, African Americans contribute over $1 trillion every single year to the market. And so when we start removing our dollars away because you want to take away DEI, let's start creating our own tables and supporting our own brands and picking up our own systems and creating our own grants and creating our own scholarships, right? And then when you do that, then you'll see a whole different system that we create, and not waiting for somebody else to give us a green light.
Amen. To your point, if I would have waited for this film to be greenlit, it wouldn't have happened. Just to let you know, this film cost a whopping $40 to make. And that was to feed folks on the one day that we shot. We went and knocked on doors, and every door open was a yes. The VFX alone, tens of thousands of dollars. One of the largest VFX companies in the world gave us that. The music was all free from Warner Brothers Music. So to your point, if you have the passion, if you have the creativity, if you have the vision, there is a way to build your own table. Sweet. Finally, the biggest one that we have been talking about internally, 5 years ago, 12 years old versus 17 years old, and I'm still trying to understand, where are we? Are we better off? Are we worse off? So this last question or two, which is going to be going to Noah, what would you tell your 12-year-old self 5 years later?
I think more than anything, what you said earlier really was probably what I say, where that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and no matter how hard you think it's going to get or what hardships you're going to face, you will push through it, and you are strong enough to be able to make it through.
Awesome. And then finally, with this new administration, what are your concerns now as a young adult, and how do they compare with your 12-year-old self?
I think my 12-year-old self was a lot more, scared of the world and just scared of what could happen to me if I went outside on any given day. But now at 17 and having to kind of watch from the sidelines as Trump got elected into office again, and I couldn't have a say in it because wasn't legally able to vote yet. That the biggest thing is to just keep on living and to not let that hunker down any part of my life. I still got all my friends, I still surround myself with people that I love. I still try to show kindness to the people I come across, and bring light into people's days, and just to keep enjoying life and the time I have on this earth while I have it, because I think that's the most important thing anybody can do.
Awesome. On that note, we'd love to open it up for any dialogue, questions, comments, concerns, jokes, raps, anything. Come on, Justin, I know you got something there. All right, well, you guys
If
are
any
easy.
of my students ask a question, I got 5 solo bucks. And
Solo
I might
bucks
do
in the
10.
house.
I'm feeling real nice. I might do 10. Oh, Adrian, that was your chance. I was looking at you.
All right.
Hey, let's go! He came up on his own free will. You know?
Take your time.
Anything. Ask any question. Anything you want.
If you don't have a question, you don't have to ask a question.
This is a question for Noah. What keeps you going, like, other than your own drive?
I think what keeps me going the most out of anything is the people around me. I think when I do like kind of fall into myself a little bit, it's the people around me are generally become my support system, are able to kind of bring me back and kind of recenter myself when I'm not able to myself.
I have a question for Adrian. What did you think of the film?
Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Question. Come up to the mic.
First of all, I wrote this one in my notes. When you said, if it's in your divine nature, let it be so, I just had to write that down in my notes. That was a bar.
Thank you.
But I guess the question is to you, Brandon, and just in general, any of you guys could answer it. When you say we need to stop waiting for a seat at the table, we need to instead make our own tables, how can you do that in a world where we as a community don't have too much leverage, and how it can be hard to find communities like this? And yeah, just like to hear your answer.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to our success is collaboration. The director just told us that he made the film with $40. Everything else was collaboration, right? And so collaboration will never find you until you look for it. Sources will never find you until you look for it. And so I think, for an example, right now, my community, and the reason why I even met these brothers is my community has gone through one of the biggest tragedies in the United States history when it comes to disasters. Literally, Altadena is gone right now. 80% of Altadena is gone because of a fire. That's the place where place where I lived. My elementary school is gone. My middle school is gone. And here's the thing about collaboration that is crazy. Is I went and I saw homes on fire literally in front of my eyes. The very next day after I saw homes on fire, I got on the phone and I said to one of my partners, I said, it's a go, we gotta do it, let's do it now. He's like, what the heck are you talking about? I'm like, we have to do something. And the next thing was, we need a location. I'll call you right back. Hey man, I know it's 10 o'clock in the morning. This is the executive director of a nonprofit, and he has a big old building like this. I said, we need a location. I only need it for today. He said, okay, you could just meet me here at 10:30 and I'll open up the doors. We created a flyer at 10:05, posted that flyer at 10:30. By 11:30, we had 150 volunteers. We had literally 3 18-wheel trucks that pulled up into our location full of supplies for families in need. Literally to this day, a month later, we have given over 500,000 pounds of food, hygiene products, water, clothes, everything that you could think of that's in your closet, we have given it away. We have served 15,000 meals, hot meals to families. We have given over $100,000 worth of gift cards. We have also put 120 families inside of hotels and paid for them in cash, and not one dime has came from our pockets because of collaboration, right? And I think that's the biggest thing that we have to do is one of the things Noah said, and I'll put an emphasis on it, is you have to do it scared, right? Like, ask those questions scared. Go into those meetings scared. sit on this stage and be scared. At 32 years old, I've sit on hundreds of these stairs, and every time I walk up them stairs, I'm scared. But collaboration is the biggest key. It took one post for all of us to see that Target wasn't doing what they supposed to be doing. And literally in 2 weeks, Target has lost $15 billion. That's creating a table, right? So that means we have $15 billion that can go to all these other businesses that are doing the same exact thing that Target is doing. We just don't support them, right? So let's take our money and the leverage that you have leverage, my guy. Take that leverage and literally cultivate the community that you have and create collaboration within that community.
If I may, I'd like to speak on that a little bit as well. Funny enough, one of my personal models is build tables and eat with your friends, right? So my story happened after I lost my dad, and his passing is what started me to do my creative agency and start my creative career. And throughout the entire time, I was just so fortunate to, be able to work with Nike, work with Adidas, all these people. I realized I could be creating my own agency and employing my own friends and putting my homies on. So you just have to have like one person in your life, or maybe you are that person where you just gotta say, hey, I'm just gonna put on the people around me, because people may not be pouring into me, but it's better for me to pour into my community, because I know that even though I may not sit in the shade, these trees will grow. You know what I mean? So it's about really finding the opportunity to really just, like Brandon was saying, collaborate, because collaboration is an effort. It should be effortless. You know what I mean? It should be something that is just so instinctual that when you do it, you're like not even surprised that it happened because you're around the right people. But it's really about who you associate with and who do you bring in, because your dream is like this ball of sunlight. You know what I mean? You can't bring in naysayers with their clouds who are just gonna drown it out. You gotta see the light inside yourself first before you see it in others. You know what I mean? So be that person, and you too can build tables.
And I'll follow up on that to end this by saying, when you tap into your passion and you hear that voice that only you can hear, and you feel what you feel, and you know it's inside of you and you gotta get it out, whatever it is, it's easy to make a sale because everybody else can see it in you. And when they can see it in you, they gravitate towards you and they collaborate with you, and then you do something great. So listen to your heart, listen to you, be good to you, and I promise the rest will come around you. Is it? Oh, we got another one.
Assistant Mr. Lamar, what do you think are some of the best ways our generation, these incoming adults, these incoming voters, they can spread your message, spread inclusion, and with everyone, with their peers.
Dope. So I'm glad you asked that. What y'all don't know me is I'm also on the executive board for California Democratic Party Black Caucus. And so our thing is to get votes coming in. Also, I was on the committee that led to allow 17-year-olds to be able to register to vote. And so, of course, we passed that. And so if you're 17, you can register to vote right now. You don't have to wait until you're 18. You do have to wait until you're 18 to vote, but you can't pre-register. I think one of the biggest things that you can do is be dope and literally have a party, have a pizza party, have a kickback, whatever you want to do, and every person that comes, in order for them to get in, they got to register to vote. At 7, how old are you, 17?
Yeah, 17.
At 17, you can vote, which means the friends that you have can vote, right? And not can vote, you can register to vote. But you create like crazy ways like that and create a system like that to do something so weird, but it's amazing, right? To activate the people that is in your community to get them involved. Because at the end of the day, the craziest